Recording, okay.
So, we're gonna remember this month. We're going to kind of focus on publishing. It's not going to be exclusive, but I do want us to look at publishing, and especially since we have everybody here practically becoming a publisher. And so, I want you to talk about, first of all, I want all of you to tell how you're published. Were you self-published? Did you use? And I know CJ, you and Lydia, or you at least, had used somebody before you guys decided to become publishers. So talk about that a little bit. Um, and I don't think we have anybody on that is not published, at least from initially, because Tarina, you do have a published book, right?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay, good. So I want to talk about how you got published, what you liked about it, the number one thing you liked about your publisher, and number two, anything that you don't like. Now, I don't see anybody from Rock Hill here except Athena, so I was going to say, don't say anything negative about James, because we're not going to talk negatively about anybody. But if there was something that didn't go the way you wanted it to, whether it's your decision that went awry or whatever, let's just talk about a few things that we could do differently. Um, and then we talked about marketing last week. So if you have any other ideas about marketing, but I really want to kind of stay with the publishing thing and have time to do that. But first, let's talk about anything we have going on this weekend. We have tomorrow, CJ's launch of she's going back and launching the first book she ever did, and it's completely redone, rewritten, new ISBN number, new cover, everything, all done. And we will be
barrier too. There's over 100 new pages, so the whole thing has been completely. The characters are pretty much about the only thing that's the same.
So that's tomorrow at 1. CJ, tell us a little about that, and I did get your email.
Oh, awesome. That'll be tomorrow at 1 o'clock. I'll be joined, of course, by Sandy, Amy, and Lydia, and also 2 other author friends of mine, Edward Hancock II and Jackie Smith. And so there'll be fun giveaways, all sorts of, cool things to enjoy.
And Amy and I are going to host it for CJ. We love doing that. So Amy's just become the expert but CJ, you did a good job the other day when Amy couldn't make it. So
I'm telling you though, her job is harder than it looks. I had to keep track, and I had to, think, okay, now what am I going to say when it's my turn? So I kind of had that double duty thing going on. It's harder than it looks, but if you need me again, let me know.
Of course I will. But you do have to, you have to watch the time carefully. And you did, you're always great at watching the time. CJ's always the one that tells me that I'm going over or something's taking too long or whatever. I get these little messages from her. So, and CJ, I do appreciate it. If I don't mention it or I don't say anything about it, it does not mean I didn't see it. So, so Brian, good to see you. We were going to be talking about publishing today. So we're going to talk about who your publisher was, and if it was you, that's good. You're a publisher. And so we're going to talk about the pros and cons of self-publishing versus small press versus a publisher where you have to get an agent and all of that. I don't think anybody has done that. Delia had has a publisher that also it's really a PR firm that did publishing. Is that right, Delia?
Yeah, I had what you call the hybrid, which is you go to a publisher with a manuscript and they look at it and then they decide whether they want to work with you. You have conversations and then you began to, and I bought in the coaching piece because I knew I needed it and I may need it again. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of time. So it worked out for that. The PR piece, I think I needed somebody else for the PR piece.
But that was, her company did do PR though, right? Because I remember seeing the name of her company and I'm like, really? She did publishing too. So anyway, so Delia met me because she's a member of a group. And it's funny, the person that invited her to come here just came that one time because she already was moving on. She already had a publisher and everything. So we never saw her again, but Delia stayed and became a member and now a client. So that's been it has been really awesome to get to know Delia. You guys, if you don't spend any time with her, and Lydia does with helping her with Pinterest and stuff, but she's got such a great story. And if you never watched her, the videos of her book launches, you need to watch them because she has such a devoted family. It was like watching all these people come together and talk about what a wonderful person Delia was. And the first time it was just her family. The second time she had some friends, and so it was just a really great thing. So go watch some of the parties, the launch parties we've already had. And because Red, we need to talk about you doing something soon. You haven't done anything for quite a while. So I want to talk about doing a relaunch for one of your books or something. And you had a birthday this week, right? Happy birthday, Red. Yay.
Thank you. Yes, I did.
So that was it yesterday or today?
The 9th.
Oh, the 9th. Okay, today's 11th. I thought today was the 12th, and I started seeing all this news on 9/11, and I'm like, why'd they wait till the 12th to show all this? They should have shown it yesterday. And then David said, today is 9/11. I'm like, really? I mean, I seriously thought it was yesterday, but anyway, that's what it's like in the COVID world when I have to remind myself that it's the weekend. And David, who is retired, says, what's a weekend? So he heard that on Downton Abbey. So anyway, he loved that.
I
So
have 6 Saturdays and a Sunday every week is the way I look at it.
Yeah, I know. It is. So I'm going to start with CJ. She's always in the top left corner for some reason. I'm not even sure why but you're almost always right there beside me. So start with you, and then Julie, you'll be next. And then Lydia, Greg, Tarina, James, Brian, Delia, Athena, Red, and Kathy. Hi, Kathy Horizon. So good to see you, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, CJ, does anybody else have any announcements first? Anything going on? Any book promotions? Remember, and I saw you, Julie. Remember, you should be doing something every month for your book. If you don't do something, somebody else will. And when the readers see them, then that's who they're going to follow. And Lydia says she pre-ordered Kathy's book. So if you didn't know, and Kathy, this should have been an announcement from you too. If you didn't know, Kathy's book the pre-orders are available. And when is the launch of the book, Kathy?
The official launch date is now October 12th, but in some of the earlier, Columbus Day, that actually works out really well given the theme of the book. But some of the earlier publicity said October 6th, so you may see it in both places. But the pre-orders are active, and they notified me this morning they've already got 91 pre-orders. So Lydia, maybe you're number 91 or maybe 89.
91 pre-orders? Oh
Yeah.
my God! Yay!
Yeah. And I have a friend that I met last summer who wanted 12 copies for Christmas presents, but she wanted them autographed. So I cut a deal with Blue Willow here in town that she would order the books through Blue Willow, and they will call me when they're in, and I'll autograph them, and then Blue Willow will ship them for me.
Oh, good.
So plug to Blue Willow. They really try to support local authors.
They do. That's great. So, Kathy, can you, somebody, was it CJ, were you the one who just asked us, can you put the link in where to go to get the pre-orders? Can you put that in the
Yes,
chat?
I'll put it in chat, yes.
Okay, great.
You put the
And
ebook-
just a commercial real quick, bookshop.org is sort of the nonprofit version of Amazon. It's not nearly as well known, but they share a percentage of their proceeds with independent bookstores.
Oh, good. Well, we definitely should promote them and find out more about them.
Kathy,
Can you put that in the chat also, Kathy?
Yeah.
You put the ebook pre-order link on there. I went to your website and I only see paperback. And when I went to Amazon, it said it's only available in paperback. But we talked the other day and you said it would be available in ebook.
It is coming out in ebook, so I'll have to talk to somebody about that because it's supposed to be available. I'll put in the 2 links that the publisher gave me and see if that works. And if not, let me know and I'll get back to the publisher.
Thank you.
Okay, CJ, now you're up.
Okay, how I got published, went and waded through all the hybrid. I knew my book didn't fit into your traditional Christian fiction. So I knew I was going to have to be an indie regardless of how I went about it. And you had to like wade through all those $3,500 to publish, 4,000, you know, 10,000, blah, blah, blah. And I found booklocker.com, which was $575.
Now you said that really fast, but what you found who?
Booklocker.com. And it was $575, I believe. No, $675 for the first one. And that included cover art.
Including cover art. What about editing?
No.
Okay.
It's kind of like ours where it has to come in edited and ready to go. We can work with you for covers. I loved Angela and Richard. They actually taught me a lot about, you know, in the author world as far as the publishing side of it. And they also took a chance on me. They went ahead and did a couple specials regarding like the trilogy and the Grace Restored series and taught me kind of a few ins and outs on that. So when Lydia and I started Texas Sisters Press, you know, I had that all still in the back of my mind, and we already have, you know, somewhat of an idea of what direction we wanted to take Texas Sisters Press. It's kind of similar to BookLocker, but we added a few extra things to it, like 10 free hours of marketing branding via Zoom. So we kind of put ourselves behind our authors. As far as I liked it, like I said, I loved Angela and Richard. I would recommend them if the books didn't quite fit ours. I would wholeheartedly recommend them to anybody. There really wasn't anything I didn't like. They operated everything. They kept me apprised of everything, and I just loved working with them. But Lydia and I were able to, like I said, start Texas Sisters Press and be able to do it and to help other authors kind of do the same thing. I loved how they came behind me. And that's kind of what we're doing for our authors that we have already signed.
Wonderful. And how many have you already signed?
We're getting our third today.
Wow.
So.
And because I do know that when you announce that you're going to be a publisher or you are a publisher, you know, you're going to become sometimes bombarded with people who have books. So what do you do to determine, what are your guidelines for submission? What are your submission guidelines?
We kind of have kind of a joke. Our 88-year-old mom, if she can read it and not blush, we're good. That's kind of our guideline sort of thing. But we like ones that are family friendly, and we like ones that people who want to have a good quality book out there. It has to come to us professionally edited already, you know, and we'll take a read through it before it goes on and before we do it. But Lydia can do the cover. I help with the marketing and branding. Like I said, what we do with each one that messages us, we set up a Zoom meeting and try to determine where they're at, what they need, whether we can actually help them or not. Because each author's needs are different.
That sounds awesome. So if somebody comes to you with a book that's not edited and it looks like a good book to you, do you have editors you could recommend to them?
We send them a list of editors. We have a list of illustrators. We have a list of cover designers if they, you know, choose to go a different direction. Like my cover artist is on the list. I love Lydia, but I'm probably going to continue to go with my cover artist because I love what he does. I know, don't cry. So, but you know, Todd and I get along really well. It's like I tell him this is the idea and he just goes, poof, there it is. And it's perfect. So, and people are always complimenting me on my covers. So that's one thing I always said I wasn't wanting to give up was my cover artist. So
And you
he's,
do have beautiful books, period. They're just really, they stand out, I think. So congratulations.
thank you.
CJ. Julie.
Okay, so publishing first. The bottom line is that I didn't want to have to wait 3 years to get a book out. I didn't think I had 3 years that I could waste looking for an agent, hoping I found something, and even if I got a book deal, then waiting for it to come out. So along the way, I went to a course at Rice University on modern day publishing, I put it that way. And the teacher there said, look, everyone's moving, even established authors are moving to self-publishing and indie presses. So think about that. So that started me on the journey. I figured, okay, I'm just going to publish this myself. And boy, what a year of learning. It's been crammed into it. But along the way, I said, okay, well, heck, if I'm going to learn all this stuff for myself, why don't I offer the service to other people who are like me, they don't want to wait 3 years, or they don't want to do all that stuff, and they'd rather let someone else do it. I think it was Sandy, you were, oh no, sorry, whoever was talking before about if you don't want to do all that. And if I had known someone, I probably would have gone to someone, but I didn't. So I just learned it all myself, and that's how the whole publishing thing started. And you know, the fact is, I only started all this in May 2019, so I'm just a little bit more than a year down the road.
You've come a long way, baby.
So let me I want to take make a couple of announcements. First of all, I sent to Sandy and Amy for those of you. I feel really good about this, but again, I give Sandy credit, like Kathy did. I don't think of myself as a fiction writer, but we had Berkey and Brakefield on, and they really encouraged us to write short stories. So I wrote one, and I submitted it to Alan Bourgeois' short story contest. And I just found out this week it got selected.
Yep, you have one selected. Kathy Howizen has one selected, and Robson Charles, the Brakefield Berkey, they have one selected. So
right.
yeah.
And the surprise for me was I thought it would just be in the Texas anthology, but they're putting my story in both of their anthologies. And as I said, I have no idea how they chose or whatever, but anyway, it's going to be in 2 separate anthologies, one for Texas writers and one which is an international contest open.
And
So
we are doing a press release. I know they're doing one, and I know they sent you one. So we're going to take the one they sent and just put all the names together and do a press release and send it out for you. So we'll be working on that. Amy, if you can remind me later to send you, because I have the one from Roxanne Charles. So to send you their press release, it'll be the same one for everybody, just different names, and get Val to look at that. Or Kathy, if you want, do you want to do that since you're in it? If you want to do that one, just do the press release, and I'm going to consider it as a full-blown press release that you're writing for us, because I want you to kind of rewrite the whole thing, but just you can use theirs as kind of a template if you want.
So let me just say, I've read Kathy's story because we got the whole anthology to review our story and make sure it was all correct. She wrote a great story. She did.
Kathy's a great writer.
So the second good news I got this week was that I think I mentioned before, I put in my cover for the Joel Friedlander monthly competition, and it didn't win the competition. There's only one nonfiction winner, but it got a gold star.
Oh, that's great.
So they don't pick that many books for gold stars, and my cover got a gold star, so I felt good about that.
So you're racking up all these ideas for press releases. I hope you remember that.
Well, we're going to announce it on my newsletter and so forth. We'll do that. The last thing I just want to mention is that as a company, I'm branching out beyond books. So I think I announced this already, but I'm marketing now literary Christmas ornaments, which are available on the website. So I have Jane Austen, Shakespeare, Dickens, Alice in Wonderland, Sherlock Holmes, and one more. I forget who the 6th one is. I have 6 literary Christmas ornaments, handmade, beautiful little things. So anyway.
Well, you're just having a regular business there, it seems like. That's awesome. I love it when you can add products, guys. You can add all kind of stuff to go with your books. I know, so I had this is me buying something, not selling anything, but I have this wedding coming up on October 10th. So it's going to be, we're going to be very, COVID aware and all that. So I was looking for what kind of mask I could wear with my dress. I was looking for a nice, glittery, sequined or something kind of mask. But instead, I found a Chihuahua mask. So I'm like, and it looks like I've got a T-shirt that says I'm a Chihuahua mom, and it's got me with a red thing. And I found a mask exactly like that. So I bought that, and then I saw another one that I had to have, and I bought it. I did buy my sequined one, and I'm going to wear that just in the beginning, but I'm planning to take my others with me. So anyway, and I got somebody in here, I don't remember who recommended Etsy for me. Did any of you? So I love that. I've never been on Etsy before, ever in my life, but I've heard of it. So I did find the mask, but I did find some books on there. So if you don't have a Etsy page, check it out. Your book might be a great idea to have it on Etsy. And especially, Julie, if you're going to sell products like that, that'd be a great thing to have a page on there. And I'm telling you, I know absolutely zero about it. I don't know if you have to pay to have a site. I don't know
You
anything.
do, and then Etsy will take a portion of your sales. They'll take a portion of it. So
What-
you should look into it because I'm pretty sure it's a pretty high portion. I think they take like 20% or something like that. And you have to pay for each listing that you put. So like if you open an Etsy store, you have to pay for each item that you list as a product. And then they get the percentage from that item. So
Wow. Do you make any money at all?
It's 20 cents per item that you put up, and it's actually only 3%.
There
At
you
least mine's only 3% that they take away. So yeah, you do make money.
Oh, that's not bad then. So you have your books there, Greg?
Yes, I have my books there. I have my koozies there. So yes.
Good job. Okay, anything else, Julie?
No, I just
Yeah.
want to say, I sent him a message, but thank you to Brian Bearden. He really was the reason that I launched my separate author website. And now I've gone back and revamped my Bayou City Press publishing website. So without him, really, it wouldn't have happened.
So Julie, what are you looking for authors to come to Bayou City Press?
I've had lots of people, not lots, I've had some people approach me, and most of the time their concept is not something that I want to deal with. I think I mentioned like a poetry writer writing in a niche area. I'm not interested. Something that really is only the family and friends would be interested in. Not interested. The areas I really want to work on are travel. That's my special thing. International affairs, which is serious business, and I'm not surprised I haven't heard from anyone yet on that. And then Houston, as in Houston authors, Houston based, Houston whatever. Just Houston in the broadest sense. So that's what I'm looking for. And because I'm writing a child's book myself right now, or I've written it and I'm trying to get it ready for publication, I've taken on, or I'm discussing, I probably am going to have a Houston-based author who's also written a children's book. So that will be my first non-me book coming
That's
on.
awesome. I love that. Love that. Mr. Hill, how are you?
Here I am. I'm good.
I'm
How are
surprised
you?
we don't have David or somebody on. Oh, David can't come on Friday. That's right. He's working. Anyway, so tell us about your publishing experience.
Okay, first I started off with Ex Librius, which is a vanity publisher.
Yes, it is.
And, you know, this, I went back like maybe, let's say I went back like 30 years ago and started looking for a publisher and going through the whole route. I told you this before, I know, about, you know, delivering newspapers so I can get to publishing companies and slide them manuscripts under the door and all that kind of craziness. And so when I came back and decided, okay, I'm going to just write books now and just do the book writing, I went to Ex Librius. Well, they came to me and they offered me a good deal for 2 books, and it was, you know, not expensive. So I said, yeah, I guess I'll give it a shot. So I did, and then I found out, of course, as I already knew about vanity publishing, but I figured, all right, it's been 20 years. Maybe this stuff I got in better. No, it hasn't. So basically, they charge you for everything. They make their money off of the authors, right? So you pay for everything, but they do have a little bit of a promotional inlet, so you can get your stuff out there, but it's really, you're still paying for it all. So once I put out my 2 books, Killer with a Heart and Pegasus, you know, I then did that for like a year, and then decided to open up my own publishing company. And I said, well, because I've been in computers for, you know, God knows how long, since high school. And I figured once I got in, I seen what they did and how they got the books out. I found out about Ingram. I found out about the print on demand. I found out all that information and how it worked. Then I said, okay, I don't need them. I can do this all myself. And so I also found Athena at the time. So
That helped.
yeah, that helped, because I really did need an editor. And so then I started my own publishing company. And my idea for starting the publishing company was to help new authors get published. You know, but there's a lot of people out there who don't know the ins and outs of it, don't know the technical end of it. And so I would figure that I can publish books, and I figured out it really doesn't cost a lot of money to publish a book. You know, when you break it down, it's really not a lot of money in publishing. The money comes in when you start marketing books
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. That's when you start rolling out the cash. But, you know, to actually do the publishing of it and actually getting the book out there, it really doesn't cost that much money. So then I started my publishing company to help other authors like myself, like Athena, who don't know the ins and outs of the publishing companies and how to do it, and don't want to wait, you know, to find an agent, to have it submitted, to go through all the hoops and whatever. And so once we put that together, we put up our submission page, which we went with the regular Big 5. My doggy's over here. My son's doggy's over here. So every now and then I got to give him a pat or something, or else he won't leave me alone. Anyway, so, you know, we put up a regular submission page, which was you submit the first 2 chapters, a middle chapter, and then the end, because we have to know how the book ends. And of course, we want character synopsis, we want a story synopsis, all that kind of stuff. So we put that out on the web page and everything. And here he comes. Because when I'm talking off the microphone, yes, there you go. Look, you're on video. There you go. Don't lick me. You're on video. Okay, get down. Go away. I got rid of my children, or most of them, and now I have a dog. He came with one of the boys. So anyway, I put up the submission page and everything, and of course we look for people who first off write a good story. That's number one. We have to read the synopsis, see if it's a good story. We have to see how well the story is written. Because as I keep telling Athena, you're not there to rewrite their story for them. You're not there to be their ghostwriter. You know, send this stuff back to them and tell them what's wrong with it and tell them to fix it. And in some cases, we fix it for them because we know we send it back to them and it comes back pretty much in the same way. It's like they don't understand when we tell them you're repeating too much, or, you know, your story had these plot holes and, you know, you need to fix them and things like that. So in some cases, we'll do a little bit of fixing for them, content fixing and things like that. So, but that's how we do it. And then and what happened was, of course, I'm in the literary marketplace and different things. I've been at this for what, 5, 6, 7 years now, something like that. So I guess I'm well known because I got lots of people sending me manuscripts and things, so much so that we finally had to cut it off this year and say, okay, we're done now because we're falling behind. We wanted to do like 2 people a year. And as you know, we put out 4 people this year.
Yeah, you did. You had a rush there for a while. So, yeah.
Yeah. And they were like 2 or 3 years behind in getting them out. And some of them is because we send the manuscript back to them and they take their sweet time in getting it back to us. And, you know, and I understand. I mean, everybody has another job and, you know, all kinds of other stuff that goes along. So they were like, oh my God, my contract says this. And, you know, and I'm like, look, don't sweat it. get it back to me as soon as you can. And then, of course, when they get it back to you, they're like, when is it coming out?
Yeah,
It's like, wait a second. You took 9 months to get this back to me, and now you want it out next month? No, it doesn't work like that. So, you know, it's been an interesting experience once you start working with other people. Like me and Athena working back and forth, fine.
You got some great authors though.
Yeah.
And every one of them, there's a story with every one of them and how they found you. I love it. I love David's story that he said if he didn't find a publisher by number 29 submission, he was just going to go do it himself. And you were number 29. So
yes.
That's a great story.
Yep. And some people are like, you know, you're the first person to say yes, so I went with it.
I know.
I understand that too.
And then Haley, you met Haley at the book festival in Miami, which is one of the biggest book festivals in the world, and loved her and Monoghan. So yeah.
Yep. So yeah, so everybody's a bit interesting. And the ones we had to turn down, because we did turn down quite a few, is because either we looked at the stories and they would just take too much editing to fix. Because we can tell from the sample chapters and from the synopsis that people write as to where their writing skills are. And one thing about my website, my company, I said, you can't teach talent. You only can develop it over time. In other words, everybody keeps saying, oh, anybody can write a book. Yeah, anybody can write a book, but it may not be a good book. It's like anybody can play guitar, but it may not sound like anything when you're sitting there strumming away, you know? So yeah, anybody can write a book, but that doesn't mean it's going to be any good. So talent is something that you have to bring to the game. That has to be something you have already. And what we can do is develop that talent over time. We can tell you where your pitfalls are. We can tell you how to strengthen that, your talents and things like that. But if you can't tell a good story, there's nothing I can do for you except rewrite your story myself. And I don't want to do that. You know, That's not what the publisher is for. So that's pretty much my story. That's how I came to be. And
so what are your plans for the future?
My plan for the future is to finish my Killer series, get that off the plate, get back to writing sci-fi, which is what I really like to write. And I only wrote one sci-fi book. I got a bunch of sci-fi stories, but I only wrote one sci-fi book, and I got to write the prequel to that one. I have another book in mind, but I can still not nail down the plot. I got the plot, but I can't really nail down the actual storyline of it. So it's still out there in the ether. And so my idea is at some point or another, we're going to get back to publishing maybe one or two other people a year.
A month,
and,
okay.
No, not a month. I'm sorry about that. A year. And I'm going to get Athena to publish her story, get back to writing her stuff. And I'm going to get back to writing sci-fi, because I got a couple of sci-fi ideas that I really want to get out before I kick off this mortal coil, as they call it.
So do you have a cover designer yet for David?
I'm looking in 5 or 2. I got a couple people out there, but I was looking in 5. I was going to ask CJ to send me the guy that she says she loves.
Do you want me to check with Fern to get that guy's name that does her books, some of her books? Because he does.
I think we got that. I think we have his name. Verzon.
Okay, we have Verstont's name, but the other one.
Oh yeah.
Verstant does do a good job, but the one that did the Twisted Reverie series,
Arthur. I can't pronounce his last name, but it starts with a D, I think. Arthur.
And he's the one that he's actually a scientist himself, and you would get along really well with him because he does kind of what you do. He's a scientist, but on the software side. Honestly, I didn't understand exactly what he does, but he did do great. He is an artist, and so he's got some actual paintings. But I thought his cover designs were great. Now, not that Verstont's are not. Verstant does great job. So anyway, but I'll check and see. But let me know if you get somebody.
Yeah, send it to me. Yes, send it.
James, I
Uh,
put it in the chat.
Okay. So Athena, save the chat. Save it
That's
now.
not it, Jen. Oh, that's one for yours, right? So she put hers in the chat. I thought you
Yeah.
meant you put Vern's in the chat. I'm like, no.
No, I put mine. He asked what mine was.
And Amy, do you know how to find? Oh, I know how to find his name. I'll look. Okay. Thank you, James. Tarina, you're up. And Tarina, I know
Yes.
you wanted to have a conversation with me, so we need to get that on my calendar.
Sure, sure, sure. So first, let me just give you a little background. I've had a desire to write my autobiography for 15, 20 years, and had various people encourage me to finally do it. But I have a very demanding day job, and that day job is dealing with regulatory compliance and things of that nature. So what I chose to do was solicit the help of a ghostwriter. And this person, it kept me on track, on a schedule, and that really helped me as I continue to try and divide my time between all the various projects that I wanted to accomplish. And in 2018, we had several meetings, and once a full written draft, he did dictations actually. And once the full written draft was completed, that's when I started to make some editorial changes. And we went back and forth. And finally, I found an editor to basically help me with editing. I have to admit, I wasn't completely pleased with that part or that process, but I ended up self-publishing. Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP, is what I used for that autobiography. And the process of using KDP was fairly intuitive. I mean, they give you a step-by-step process for how you can self-publish. But the biggest thing for me was being able to get the project to a completion. There's always room for improvement, especially if you're a critical thinker. I definitely want to relaunch it and put a different spin on it. And I'm looking forward to being able to do that. So at this point, I did do self-publishing, and I'm looking to probably go with a different publishing house when I do the second release. So,
Okay, that's awesome. So, and I know you and I talked about that you're going to also do the stories as well, right?
the
Something like
short
that.
stories, yes.
Do short stories, and those stories are all in the book or not?
Well, they will stem from certain events that are spelled out in the book or elaborated in the book. But yes, my goal is to do a series of short stories that would also be released as well, or published as well. So
Got it. Okay. And so welcome. For those of you that didn't know, Tarina had visited us for a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, maybe longer. And she has now joined and will be part of us, the whole group. So we welcome Tarina as a member of Through the Eyes of Authors. And this, if you remember also, this month, September, is our 2nd anniversary. 2 years we've been doing this. So I love it. And don't plan to stop anytime soon. So I'm glad you guys are all here and hanging in there. Some of you joined right at the beginning. It was Red did, and Brian did, and I'm trying to think. Lydia, did you guys join from the very beginning? Okay, and so this has been great. I love it. And Kathy, I know it's from the beginning because she's been working with us now for a few years. So yay! So I'm working with Minot right now. Kathy, she's helping me with doing the interior of Teresa Cody's book. You Healing You. So you guys are going to be hearing a lot more about that soon because we're getting it down to where she's doing the design part of it. She sent it back. She sent it back and said it needs to be edited again before you guys do it. So I'm like, okay, that's no surprise when it's Minot doing the work, but she does do a great job on the interior design. So okay, who's next? Everybody kind of shifted around. Red, I think you're next, and then Brian.
Okay, my first book, I published all my own books. I had a little difficulty the first time following the intuitive route, but I finally figured out everything. And then I started suggesting that to other speakers that they would have more credibility if they had a published book. And, you know, one guy said, hey, I tried, I can't do it. Would you do it for me? And I did that. And I basically branched out into a very narrow niche of publishing, that you give me a finished manuscript that's proof edited, ready to go, cover everything. I'll get it in Amazon for you, Kindle. Thank you very much. Show you how to change prices, and then I walk away. I don't do any marketing. I don't do any editing. I don't do any proofing. All I do is format and publish and walk away.
And what do you use for the formatting?
I use Word for all the formatting that I do. Then I use Scrivener for the ebook. I use Sigil, S-I-G-I-L, to edit the EPUB so that it's a little bit more user-friendly on Kindle. And then use, you know, just everything seems to come out pretty easy that way. I've never had a problem with it. Biggest problems I have are designers getting me covers that meet the size of the book. You know, if I had to say one problem that I've never had a problem with formatting the book. That part's generally pretty easy. You tell me the size of the book you want, and if you want a spine, if you have to have 104 pages, you know, we'll work with you on that. But on the actual, you know, well, this thing doesn't fit because it's not, you know, whatever. We go back and forth, and sometimes, I think twice in the last year, I've taken it away from the writer, the author, and worked with the designer myself to get the book cover done because they don't know what is needed. But book covers seem to be the only real problem I have. Other than that, you know, I give them 1 free cover change and 2 free content changes, no questions asked. So they come to me a year later and say, hey, I want to add this chapter or change this. Yeah, no problem. I just make the changes.
Very good. So that is a very special niche for you. And for people that don't want to go with a publisher, they really want to do the self-publishing, but they can't figure out all the, you know, how to get around and navigate through Amazon, which I'm with Tarina. I think it's pretty intuitive, but every now and then there'll be something that they leave out, and everybody does this. They leave out something that seems insignificant, but really when you look at it, you can't move forward until you figure out what that is. So I always encounter that. Somewhere along the line, there will be something that I don't see, and I can go watch a video on YouTube. I can go just do a search for how to do something and get all these instructions, but nobody addresses that one little thing, one little tiny thing. And I remember from years gone by when you wanted to get into Windows, you didn't automatically go to Windows. You went to whatever we used before Windows. I don't even remember now, but you had to type WIN to get into Windows. And I would hear people give all these instructions, but they didn't tell in Windows, but they didn't tell that you had to get into Windows first. And that was so frustrating to me. And because I'm like, okay, everybody that writes a manual thinks, well, everybody knows how to do this. And so they don't put it in there. And sometimes there's a person like me who's totally new and has no clue what to do. So I love it that Red kind of fills in the blanks for people like that. So thank you, Red, for what you do.
I work with the authors on the front end, just developing their ideas and talking them through things. I'm probably going to expand my business to working with people who want to record their book and work it from that particular end, because there's some advantages to doing it that way for certain types of books. So
are you talking about audio? Are you talking about audiobooks?
No, I'm talking about, you know, Sandy, if I ask you a question, tell me about the first car you ever had. You could do that in a heartbeat.
Okay.
Some books, how-to books,
right.
hobby books, business books, retiree books, a lot of books, if you just answer questions, basically have an interview with somebody, You already have the questions, you already have the bullets for the answers in the order you want. It's just a matter of having a conversation and recording it. You send the recording to rev.com or somebody that has a human that interprets it, gives you back the next day a manuscript. So basically you can write a book in a weekend if you think about the questions that you need to answer. And your public speakers, if they have the same motivational speech or whatever, there's a lot of ways it could be done with a eyeball to eyeball with somebody. And it's an area that I'm thinking about offering that service to be the other eyeball.
Yep, good. That sounds awesome. Have you done any of those yet already?
No, I'm probably going to do a couple of books on my own to show how easy it is, and then allow people to see that particular.
So you should have a webinar or something about that, so that you can let people know that you could help them with that. People that want to write a book but just not good writers or whatever, that you would be there to help them with that. So I think that's a great idea. Thank you, Red, and happy birthday. Brian.
Well, my journey was kind of unique. I actually was going to be part of a co-op book with another author, and then her kind of niche market and my niche market were pretty much two different niche markets. And so I said, hey, what if I just did my own book? And she was okay with that. So basically I paid to get out of my contract and got basically decided to self-publish my book. And I cannot believe that September 2016 is when I released the book.
Wow, has
It's
it
been
been
4
that
years.
long? 4
Yeah.
years. Oh my God.
4 years. Yeah. And I decided that to use the book as a business card. I had all these clients that were asking me questions. And so I used to write a blog about, for those of you who don't know, I run a website design company. I used to have a blog that I would answer these questions. And then it was like, hey, why don't we put these tips together? And Sandy had done a tip book, and I have read some other tip books. And so I contacted Sandy and said, hey, I want to do my own tip book. And so 4 years ago, I came out with 52 tips to turn your website into a sales machine. We launched it, and then we've actually relaunched it 3 times. And every single time we relaunch it, there's more people who want it. So it's actually hit #1 in a lot of different categories. And the one that I think is pretty cool is it hit #1 on Small Business Saturday in the small business marketing category, which is pretty cool. Because since I'm in web design, I think it's awesome to see, what happens on Thanksgiving and Black Friday, and then you have the Saturday, and then you have the Sunday, then you have Small Business Saturday, and then you have Sunday, which we take off, and then you have Monday, you have Cyber Monday, and then you have Give Back Tuesday, which is for nonprofits. I'm a big nonprofit supporter, but a lot of them have too big of committees and no budget. But for 99 cents, they can get my Kindle version and learn a little bit about website development. So it was a pretty interesting journey because Minot actually helped me. I had no idea. I mean, here I am, at that time, like 12 years in the website online marketing business, and I had no idea, truthfully, that you could order a book like this and Amazon would print it with my ISBN number. I didn't even know what an ISBN number was at that time either. And ship it to you basically in 24 hours. I was like, okay, so I'd have to get all these printed and ship them to Amazon. And I remember Sandy going, Amazon doesn't know who you are and they don't want to store your books. And so, so it's just interesting that, this was the journey that I took. So I self-published it. And as I talk about, there are months where I make 37 cents in my royalties. And there are months where I give this book out and make $20,000 because I still use this book as an introduction to who I am and the type of websites that I do. And as I say, I probably have made 2,500 in book sales, and I've probably done now close to $1 million in website business based off the fact that I'm an author of a book. That gives me a lot of credibility in a very competitive industry where you could very easily go to Fiverr, overseas, or anybody else who took a leisure learning or HTML class could probably say they could do a website. And I wanted to separate myself, and the book truly did that for me.
Yay. So, of course, for 3 years, we've been planning book 2.
Yeah. I need a
don't
little motivation. On
quite
that.
have book 2 yet.
Yeah.
So you may need some help with the writing of book 2. You might need to get with Red and just talk it through in a weekend or something. But yeah, so there's lots of ideas that we could do with Brian's book. One of the main reasons that we have not done book 2 or 3, 4, 5 or whatever is how busy he's been since he has this book. So yeah, even in the middle of COVID, we talked this morning and he was telling me that he's still, his business is, not going forward by leaps and bounds, but it's steadily staying, where it is. And I think that's awesome. So yay, Brian, that's great. And so
what's interesting is, I think the reason why I'll be honest, I need a 2021 copyright because of the fact that if you're looking at books that talk about online marketing, even though a lot of the tips, there's probably out of the 52, there's probably 48 of them that are still very relevant today. But would you buy a 4-year-old online marketing book? No. And so that's the thing that I tell people about is, you need to look at how fast the technology or how fast things change. Julie's got a great book, but if a earthquake hit that poor little trail, I guarantee that she'd need to update her book. Now especially when you're talking nonfiction, Hyatt Ives has got a great book on trade shows. Okay, I don't know when the next time we're going to do a face-to-face trade show is. So I talked to him and I said, Hyatt, why don't you change the copy of your book to say virtual? How to do a virtual trade show. So that's the biggest thing we talk about every day to my clients is to keep up to date with what's happening in your particular industry or your niche, and how can your book or whatever you're doing really meet the needs of whatever's going on in September 2020.
Yep, that's great. That's great. And actually, I met Julie through the nonfiction authors. She started coming to those meetings, and I was going to them at the time when we were still having meetings. And then when she launched her publishing company, I went to the launch and I absolutely loved her offices and she's got a whole house and all of the rooms have been made into office space and all the bedrooms. And I loved how she did that. And then she's got like the dining room area, I think, for her office. It was originally the dining room area. It doesn't even look like that now, though. It was a perfect place to have like a launch party. And so when we're back into no COVID stuff, I'm going to talk to you about that, Julie, because I think that'd be a great place to.
I'm doing a launch party down there on October 16th. The
Good.
details of it are evolving because COVID, but it's going to be based there.
Very good. That sounds awesome. So we'll talk more about that when it gets a little bit closer. I know for the wedding we're going to on October 10th. They wanted to not have it there at the place with the venue, but the venue won't cancel it or won't give them a refund or anything. So they have no choice really but to go ahead and have it. So we're working on how to make it completely safe to be there. And I don't know if there is such a thing as that, but anyway, the big thing is that masks will be required and all that. But still, you can have something. It's just not what it used to be. So, Brian, good job. Thank you for that, sharing all of that. Let me go back and get Athena now. You guys are kind of keep moving around every time somebody leaves. So, Athena, how did you get started in this? And I know you met James online and started working with him, but before that, who published your books? You must be muted because I can't hear you. Can't hear you at all.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Okay. So obviously, like everybody else, I started wanting to be published traditionally, obviously. But I don't know if anybody else has felt this. It's as if you never have enough knowledge to know exactly what's going on. So you're always doing something, but you were a step behind of what the industry is actually looking for. And
so tell me how that works in South Africa. The
Very
traditional publishing.
And remember, this was before the time of the internet, before the time when we could just email manuscripts and things like that. So every time you post something, it's a proper paper manuscript that needs to be posted somewhere. And of course, because in South Africa, we don't have a very large publishing business, I was posting mostly to England all the time. I didn't even look at the US, it was just England. You know, because South Africa and England are kind of close, you know, the way they think and the way they trade with each other and all of that. So I didn't even know about the whole world of the US publishing business. So that's what I was going through. But what I was doing, like I say, obviously I was slightly a step behind all the time. And it was the time when agents were coming into being, because publishers get tons of manuscripts a day, a week, a month, a year, and eventually they can't deal with all of this. So they need readers. So eventually it started moving on to agents, and you can't get in if you don't have an agent, because they just don't have the time or the manpower to deal with all of that. So of course, eventually I had a computer. So I transferred everything I had into computer form, and then of course discovered internet, and I started looking for publishers, you know, learning something about them. And I discovered a self-publishing company, obviously, because there's the big five don't have to advertise themselves, but everybody else has to advertise themselves.
That's true.
You're going to get the self-publishing companies and the vanity presses. You're not going to see Simon and Schuster and Penguin and all those people advertising themselves. They have a name. They don't need to do any of that, you know. So I found a self-publishing company, and I quickly learned that my money and the money they asked did not work well together, because everything was in dollars, and South African money is horrible when you go through the exchange rate. You can ask CJ, she probably knows something about that. It is terrible. I saw bankruptcy looming in my future if I kept going with these self-publishing people. And I was like, I need to stop, because I can't just keep on feeding their money. They're doing nothing for me, and they just, because that's how they work. They work on services. So they're making money from you. So they don't care if you sell your book or not, they're making money. So that's not the worry, that what you do with your book once you have it. So anyway, long story short, eventually we were online on Amazon or something, and I ran into James. We started exchanging. Where did you do your book? Oh, lo and behold, we both did our books through the same self-publishing company, and how lacking in proper services they were. They don't really help you. They just sell you services. That's all they do, you know. And so he was looking for an editor. I was kind of tired of sending manuscripts everywhere and all of that. And again, like I said, I was always one step behind everything. And so we got together, we started doing things together. I started learning more about the publishing business. So now I feel I'm actually getting to a point that I actually understand what's going on with the publishing business. And I have figured out as well that it's not impossible to sell to traditional publishers. It's hard, but not impossible. And I'm actually learning a lot, because I've been doing classes and all kinds of things. I'm a learner. By nature, I like to learn.
Me too. I love learning. Yep, me too.
Oh, I've been learning about traditional publishing, because I want to bring all those ideas into Rock Hill Publishing, and actually share with the group as well things, how to work pitches, how to approach agents, what the query letter looks like, you know, what your synopsis must have, how do you, you know, all those kind of things. the deals that they offer. You know, what does this mean and that? So I've been doing that quite a bit lately. So during the days, I do classes and all kinds of things. So yes, that's where we are. So I am now with Rock Hill Publishing, and my main avenue right now is to help writers produce the best work that they can. I don't want to rewrite their stories. I want them to learn how to write their stories, because I see they are lacking in many of the techniques that they need to know. And that's my thing. I want to be able to share the things that they need to know to produce the best work. And it doesn't just have to be for Rock Hill Publishing, to anybody that where they say, because maybe you have a fiction writer, but who wants to write a nonfiction book? We don't publish nonfiction. So how do they do that, and who do they approach? So I'm
So
learning.
you guys should think about, James, I know we're going to be working with you tomorrow on the podcast, but that sounds like a great webinar for Athena to do too. And so I'll be happy to have her do that. It's from my Zoom, and invite people there, and I'll help promote it, because I think that would be a great thing to talk about. It would be something for people who are writers who need help with finishing their story, or developing their story, or developing their characters, or whatever it is that you want to teach them how to do.
Yeah, that's how we're going to do the podcast.
Oh, the podcast. Okay,
we're
good.
going to start
Okay.
talking the podcast, and it's going to be more like a tutorial for writers and a sort of like a tutorial for readers. You know, this is what it's like, demystifying the whole idea of writing. It's kind of like what we want the podcast to be.
Do we have a title for it yet?
Demystifying writing. I was thinking for writers and readers.
Okay.
Something that's easy to remember. For
Yeah.
writers and readers.
For writers and readers. That's a great way. And so, Amy, can you think about how to put that in a image for them? So if you'll look at that, because James and I are going to talk tomorrow after.
I used to have a blog, and I called it the error trap. You know, all the errors writers fall into that they don't even realize that they do. So I used to call it the error trap. Anyway, because I like helping people figure out.
I know you do, and I know you know a lot about it too. And I love that you get to talk using your accent too. So
lately I've been learning about pitching. So my latest lessons have been in pitching. And let me tell you, I learned things that I thought I knew. I didn't know enough of anything, how pitches work and how they are supposed to be written and said.
And I'd love to have you and I to have a conversation about that. So where are you learning that from? Because maybe I've got plenty of stuff I could share with you on pitches, and I'd love to hear what you've got on pitches as well. So
that is where I am. I would really like to. That's my heart. My heart is in teaching and helping. You know, I have a servant's heart.
You do.
So, you know, so I like to help people do the best that they can. So,
did I tell you that she was a teacher when I met her?
No, I don't think you did. Amy, can you, do you have my Calendly address? Okay, I've set up an account on Calendly so people can, not for your regular calls or anything, but if you want to spend like 30 minutes with me to talk about a topic. So Tarina, you've already used it once. So use it again for me to schedule some time with you. So if you want to spend some time with me just talking about any specific topic, then you can schedule it through there, and that way it'll automatically go on my calendar, and I won't forget that I told you we'd talk at a certain time. So Amy will post that in the chat, and then I'm gonna go. Thank you, Athena. That was wonderful, and I love your servant's heart. I really do, and I love. When you start talking, I love everything that you say, because you have such a way of positioning it and putting it, because I'll never forget when you were talking about the romance books. So that's great. I love that. Can't wait for the podcast. Kathy Horizon.
Theme of the day is how did I get into this, basically?
Publishing,
Okay.
so you've published several different ways, right?
Yeah. My first book was published in 1985, traditionally by a faith-based publishing house that's connected to the Lutheran tradition where I hang out. And I pitched the idea to them. They wrote back and said, how many people does this impact? It was about moving. And I said, how many people does this impact? And I had some statistics ready to share with them. And so we went back and forth by snail mail, a few rounds. And then they said, okay, we'll take it. So that was my first effort. And then years passed. And I did publish some magazine articles during those years, but I was really distracted with my day job. So I didn't have much time to devote to writing. So the next thing that I worked on was I was the editor on it. It was a book about disaster response after Katrina and Rita that hit our area really hard. And my regional bishop had, I think, 12 congregations underwater, plus the residents or the members of all those congregations. So he was drowning with people calling him and telling him stories and wanting resources and wanting to come down and help. And he was just overwhelmed. So he tapped me to help respond to some of the onslaught of emails. And that got me into disaster response. And I learned a whole lot of how the faith-based communities come together in a disaster that most people don't know, because the media moves in, covers it for a few days, moves out. But it takes, as we know here in Houston, it takes years to recover from a major disaster. So that I co-authored that book with him because they wanted something out by the 1-year anniversary. And then I worked with my daughter to write our own book about that, because by then she's working in the disaster response field and she knew all the right people and could fact check my information and stuff. So that one was also published through a Lutheran, through a non-denominational faith-based publishing house. So that was also traditional. That one I pitched it mostly by phone. I did send an initial letter, I think, but then we had a lot of phone conversations and we actually changed the approach several times. It was a joy to work with her. A good editor is just a joy to work with. A bad editor is your worst migraine headache. And then Asunder was it was my self-help book for myself after I went through a divorce, 33 years of marriage. I didn't think we were going to be divorced, but we were. But I didn't want to embarrass anybody in the family. I still have a lot of affection for these people. So I just created a story about somebody recovering from divorce. And that one was a hybrid. And I'm really impressed that all of you are doing so well with Amazon, because I have just had one headache after another with them. The person who was kind of like Red in my life that put it up on Amazon quit doing business with Amazon, and Sandy and I and that other guy have tried off and on for over a year to get the account switched to my name and my account, and they can't seem to figure out how to do that. So if somebody buys that book on Amazon, the money just goes into this black hole someplace because they can't get it to me, and he can't get it.
You and one other person that I'm working with have had the same problems with Amazon, and it all stems from not knowing that Amazon will do the printing if you want them to. Now, maybe they knew and didn't choose to, but Tim, his name is Tim, right?
Right, yeah.
Tim, and then the other person is Dick Elam, his publisher. They printed hundreds of books and then submitted them to Amazon, like in it's called the Advantage program.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, it's for me, I just can't tell that it's a way, it just doesn't seem like the most efficient way to do business. Maybe some people have found out that it is. I think Judith Browse does the Advantage program, and because she's always looking at different printers.
Yeah.
But it's just, I mean, if Amazon will print it and their printing prices are not that expensive, they're as reasonable as anybody else's, then to me it just makes logical sense just to have one way of doing business. But
well, it was a learning curve, and I like Yeah, I like Athena. I didn't know how to do all this. I was looking for somebody to do it. Tim was already doing his own stuff and he offered to do it for me. And so we partnered on that adventure and
Yep.
he wasn't getting anywhere. So he just backed out. And so it was a learning curve. Yeah, we learn, we know more.
We did. We did.
Yeah, the current book is being published by a small publishing house in Vermont. I was part of an author competition last summer. The publisher was one of the judges. A PR guy in Chicago was another judge, and an agent out in California was a third judge. And it was a long, complicated process. I could do a whole event on that. But anyway, they agreed to publish my book. So we're on the home stretch of this, but it has been, and it's historical fiction. It's my first historical fiction because I wanted two things that I couldn't do in nonfiction. I wanted to have dialogue between the people so that I could capture their reactions to what was going on around them. And I wanted the Native American perspective. And although there are books written by Native Americans about Native American history, and there are lots of books written by the English people about the English part of the story, but I had not found anything that wove the two together in one book. And that's what I wanted to do because they were both there. They significantly impacted each other. I wanted to get back to the beginning and talk about the first time they laid eyes on each other and what happened. So that required it to be fiction.
And that's awesome. I'm so proud of you and excited and been with you through quite a bit of this journey. And
Yeah.
it really is, has been a journey for you. So.
And I also want to put in a plug for Julia's Place again. We're going to do some kind of a launch event from there, but it's going to have to be way scaled down from what I would like to do. But COVID will eventually go away and then we'll come out to play.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Kathy. And Delia, I think we're wrapping it up with Delia. Anybody else I missed? I don't think so. But Delia, Delia, maybe can we get together later this afternoon, you think?
I would love to.
Good. I have a call at 2, so can you do 3?
I can do 3.
Yeah, I'd like to read that too, James. James just said he'd like to read your book, Kathy, and I think I would love to.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you did put the links in here, right? So
I did. And CJ says it's not, they're saying it's not available in ebook format, but I know that the ebook is available because it's available on a site that people go to for review copies before they commit to buying it for their bookstore or their library. So I know there is an ebook. I don't know why it's not on Amazon yet. I'll make some calls today and find out.
Okay, let us know when that's available.
Okay.
Okay, Delia, you're up.
Well, I pretty much summarized what I've done so far, and that is, my experience with the hybrid was a very good one, but in transferring to the marketing piece, I that the person was really focused on the authors and the marketing piece was going to be done from a desk and not interacting with me. And then I came to you. And then I had all these health issues that happened, first with my son. I think it's a miracle that in between my son having this great accident, and I share something with you that I hope that you edit it or give me some feedback on it, of the feeling that one has when something incredibly wonderful happens in your life and at the same time something very painful happens, because I think I can do those things very well. Evolved in where I am in a place in my life, we know that it all comes through the same avenue. You could feel pain and allow joy to be happening at the same time, and I think that that's things that people struggle with, because either you just go down with the pain or come with the joy and all of that. I don't know anything more than to write from my heart, and the people that I'm getting feedback for are the people that really want their hearts to be touched and they want to share with me. So, and I'm in the point in which, as I don't want just this to be a story about my life and my family, because what I'm sharing about my family to me is what an influence I was, being the link in a generation to really, and how important that role is to people, and not just if you're a family member, but anybody who really gets involved in the mentoring issues and all of those kinds of things. and how it is that you come from that and then you move to the other, and how is it that, you know, resiliency is something that in my case, he was also inheriting me, but it was inheriting the family, but that it also is, how is it that you learn if you haven't had those experiences? Now, I think of Julie, what she says about, you know, traveling. My next book is going to talk a lot about traveling, but it's going to come from the same thing, the experience of somebody who discovers a whole world out there. And I have plenty to say of what happened in Cairo, or what happened when I went and crossed the bridge from Jerusalem to the Palestine area, how I spent some time in a kibbutz, and, you know, all that part of history. It is this girl, this young woman, and experiencing the world, how it was, how it happens. I was thinking in terms of, you know, in the next book, and a lot of the stories are written in the next book. I have to kind of sort of bring them together to be able to work with an editor on that, as somebody who's willing to be working in that relationship. I don't think I have a history of being a great writer, and I don't know that in my time that's going to happen. I need a good collaborator that gets excited with my story and helps me clean it up.
And you do have a great story. You really do. So
yeah,
I do hope that you find someone you can.
And the next one is also, I think, that great. And I look at it from an objective. It's not about me telling a story, me, Delia Sepa, telling a story. I've been blessed to have this life. I've been blessed to be exposed to what I've been. I've been lucky to have the opportunities. And it's when I have an opportunity to people who really are interested in and read my book and come back. I'm already having people, young people that are not young people, young women, and by young women, I mean women that their children are going away to college. It's, you know, really resonating with that process of growth, all of the process of growth. And my book has a developmental process, because I know the developmental process as well as an educator. I studied it firsthand. All the kinds of things that happen, how you flow and transition into something else. And I can't write that down, and I can't relate to people about it. And it has a very kind of unique audience that will connect to that are going through that process. So already people are giving me manuscripts to look at, and I'm going, whoa, you know, it's like I'm in no shape or form to be able to give people feedback in their writing. I could tell them my story. But, and this is one of the reasons I don't give up on what I'm doing, that I don't change it in what I'm doing. I think I'm a good storyteller. The thing is to be able to tell that story to the population that's really interested in.
I have looked that over. I'll look it over again before you and I have a call. And if you're available at 3,
yeah,
then I'll give you a call, or we'll get on Zoom.
Any comments from anybody? I'm all ears. You all have so much experience, and what you have unfolded in front of me today, my God, wow, there's a wealth of talent in here. So
that's one of the reasons that every now and then I like to go around and have everybody talk about themselves, because I do want you to get to know each other. I want you to know each other's stories. And it's when you know that, then you know who to help and when. So, so talk to Julie about if Julie's interested in your story, talk to her about publishing it and all of that. So you're working on it now, and that'll be a year down the road before you get it finished.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so talk to Julie or someone here, the Texas Sisters or something, about your book. And I love the story. And I felt like when I feel when my family gets together, when we did the Zoom parties for you for your birthday and for the launch of the book, it's just really, really a very moving group of people that got together to celebrate you. And
I felt the same thing when Jeremy spoke. When Jeremy,
I know Jeremy
came about. I'm saying that's exactly what I'm talking about. My book. It's your village. It's your group of people. How these people from 14 years old, and I mean, I'm looking for, you know, a group of artists that we could do synchronicity together and work on our things and collaborate with each other, and that everybody gets money if that's what you're supposed to buy a service, or everybody's creating together. And, you know, I was really impressed. And that's what I read into Jeremy, what he's doing about the games, because a lot of people role play, and we're talking about superheroes role play and creating all this kind of thing. But for me, it had a clear parallel that what they loved, it was that they belonged to a group. And that's even related to when gangs get together. It's identity and hanging out and spending together, except that gangs are getting into all kinds of problems. So I see the relationship of different things, that it has a manifestation in an area and a manifestation in something else. In how is it that you bring that together to the better of everybody?
And I think that's brilliant. And thank you all for hanging in there. So this did run quite a bit over, so it's almost 1. So I want to let you go and have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday. So Amy, who's on Author Talk on Monday? Oh, CJ is. That's right. So CJ launches tomorrow, and then she's on Author Talk on Monday. So